each of which is left, and then whichever is below your minimum stock you want to replenish. Praise the Lord.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Mommy, be businesswoman too. All right. Let's hear Mrs. Elem.
I'm not a businesswoman, but in my profession we call it inventory, as he have said.
Yes.
You take inventory, or if you are entered an office, you take inventory of what you made, so that by the end of the year or when you are leaving, you also take inventory to know the stock, what you have left.
Okay. Thank you. So
and if there is any reduction, you will know whether it has because of gain or loss that difference came.
Okay. So we already know what it means to take stock. Now let's look at verses 3 to 5 and see if there was any kind of stock taking in that place. 1 Samuel chapter 30. That's the passage we started with, and that's where we're going to round the year up. 1 Samuel chapter 30, 3 to 5. Sister Lejuru, verse 3. Is there stock taking in verse 3? First Samuel chapter 30, verse 3. After Sister Lejuru, verse 4, Sister Pat.
First Samuel chapter 30, verse 3. And when David and his men saw the ruins and realized what had happened to their families.
Which translation of Bible is that one?
New Living Translation.
I beg, read the NIV for us.
When David and his men reached Ziklag, they found it destroyed by fire.
They did what?
And they found it destroyed by fire, and their wives and sons and daughters taken captive.
Is that a form of stock taking? Eh? Yes, when they were leaving, they left a lot of people in the camp, only to return now. Everything is gone. Everything is gone. Sister Pat, how would you explain their reaction in verse 4?
Okay, the reading is, so David and his men wept aloud until they had no strength left to weep. Your question?
Yeah, so what do you make of their reaction? Their response to that?
It looks like a very natural response to what has happened. Because if you come back and everything that you have, because this is like their sons, their daughters, and everything, the place where they probably will sleep is even destroyed by fire. So it's like saying, I have lost
everything.
They have lost everything. I have not lost everything.
Okay. All right.
So it's a natural response, yes.
Okay. You are speaking in a reported form, so we can understand. Yes, Sister Debbie, look at verse 5. What's in verse 5?
David's two wives had been captured, Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel. So we see here that not only their sons and daughters were taken captive, but David's two wives were also captured.
Okay. So that's still further stock taking happening there. They now zeroed in on David. It's not only the men that lost something. David, the Oga, also was affected. All right. So taking stock, it requires that we access our losses truthfully. You know, there are some people that will say it is well, even when things are not the way they ought to be. And they're not saying it is well as a faith confession. They are saying it as a way to avoid the conversation. I don't know if you have met people like that before. There is a conversation that has to be had. There is an honest conversation that has to be had. But in an attempt to evade that conversation, they say, it is well. But here we have a very clear, cogent assessment of what has been lost. They recognized it. And we see also their emotional responses to the situation. So the same thing we must learn to do. Because if you have not wisely assessed or evaluated your loss, there is no way you can recover it. If you don't know that you have lost something, you won't even have the push to say, let me do what it takes to recover. For those of us who run supermarkets, for instance, if you're not taking stock, your sales boys and sales girls could be piffering your things away small, and you'll be none the wiser. Until at the end of the month, you now calculate, you now realize that your capital is not even capital in talk less of profit. And that's because we are not paying attention. So it's very important that we pay attention to the things happening in our lives and do a truthful assessment of them. And in the course of the year, we had looked at the different steps to total recovery as we traveled through. If you were the kind that used to record messages, write down, go back and look at the things that God has spoken to us. But I know that we talked about acknowledging the loss. I think it's part of the messages I preached the first Sunday, acknowledging the loss. And we see that in the life of David. David did not deny the damage that has been done to him. He did not say, no, it did not happen. It happened. He lost his wives and his children. And he wept until he had no more strength. He did not behave like, I'm a man.